My dad always said, be careful because men will use you up. And I thought, well, that is the most twisted. What a negative. But I will say this. When you put yourself in positions, they will. And I remember my timeline being married to him. I am going to get older. I will not always look like this. I won't always be a size 2 forever. Maybe, but maybe not. I'm going to get wrinkles. I'm going to, and I remember the panic. What in the heck my whole life's going to be plastic, like freaking out to stay up to make him happy. That is so messed up.
Yeah.
If you want to do it for you, but don't do it for a partner. Dear God. So when I was 4, I was molested by a cousin. And this cousin said, do you know what sex is? And I said, no, I'm a toddler, basically, no. And she said, do you know what humping is? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, I'm going to show you. And so she showed me on my body and then with the person's. And so that was my first sexual experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it the way it is.
Sure.
As wrong as it was.
Yeah.
And so that was dirtiness in my mind from that moment on about sex, period. Learned what perversion was from her, learned all of that. And flash forward to like 7, it happened again with another cousin who was older. This person was 14. This person made me take down my underwear and lift up my shirt. I'm 7 years old. Yeah. I have children. They're growing now, but I've had a 7-year-old daughter.
Yeah. And
at that time, it's behind the barn. I was raised mainly ranch and rural and farming sort of background. So raised very well, very Christian home, very country, very simple. Yeah. The simple life. Certainly money was an issue, but I was happy. I had the great outdoors and a lot of animals. But in saying that, kids slip through the cracks sometimes and it can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. But, I am thankful during that time that even though what had happened and the person wanted to touch their private on my private. And I remember just thinking, I was so confused. I knew it felt wrong. And I was freaking out, but it happened. And I remember when it was over, the person just said, aren't you glad my mother called my name is what it was. I remember her calling us kids. And I remember the cousin saying, well, I'm so glad you're lucky that they called you now because I was going to show you what moms and dads really do. And so that I am thankful for. But to set up the story of my life, those are pretty big points that changed a lot of chemistry in my brain towards sex. I was raised so strict. I Googled what sex was in the encyclopedia, and it didn't show much. I learned what contraceptive was I saw a box under my mom's medicine cabinet. It was like some type of whatever birth control method and look, but that's kind of a setup for some of my story. And, I have to talk about the abuse because it affected me.
Yeah.
And it affects other people.
Same.
I am not this lone story out there in the universe flopping around broken. Okay, I've been through hell, and my story's not anything different than a lot of other people's. But I'm thankful to be able to put a voice to this because
1,000%.
You said something about on your page about shedding light in the darkness, and I really believe that. And that's really not just a Christian thing; it's a truth thing.
Amen.
Yeah. So that set me up, and my first encounter, honestly, with a boy, like as in, what was I, 14, I was living on the Indian reservation. The ranch was on the Crow Reservation in Montana, and I was working at a little store. This years ago, I drove without a license. I know I was 14, but it was back roads, and I had always had a low self-esteem. I mean, bad. I am telling you,
Yes.
if I could feel fat and ugly and bucktooth or freckle face or in any way, shape, or form, nothing. And I just don't know what it was, except I think the enemy so attacks, girls.
Yeah.
And if I could tell that little girl now as a grown woman, I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 March 21st. I'm so thankful. I want to set an example for younger women and put a voice to them that actually your greater days are coming. I had a gift of music as a child. That's important. My dad, he used to be in a traveling band in the, Lord, I'm going to get it wrong, but 70s, 80s, so Christian country, right? All through Texas. He just did a lot. He went into prisons and played, on TV played. So I grew up in church, but like sitting up there with my pacifier, while he played the sound back. And so always in church and usually in the forefront, it felt like. Always in the front appearance. And it's not that he made it that way, but it's just the way it was. It always felt, and I think that where I'm at now, I'm going to jump forward, it isn't just about appearance. There is nothing wrong with being beautiful. First of all, I gotta drop a name, but Queen Esther, let me just tell you, I bet she was A-list, okay? Lady was gorgeous. What an awesome freaking calling. God gave the king's ear to this woman. He used her beauty. There's nothing wrong with being beautiful. That's what I would tell women.
Right.
Because I felt there was something wrong with it. Something's wrong with me. I'm attacked. I'm preyed on. And then the enemy works it in. See, and when I backslid, I would use my appearance to get what I needed or to survive. That's wrong. But I want to be clear that I want women to feel beautiful for existing and embrace it and learn to embrace your flaws.
Yeah.
Really, there's something beautiful about a genuine person that's been broken. I'd rather hang out with them, let me tell you, than anybody.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like. And I know what it's like to be on the top and on the bottom, because I've been both. Mm-hmm. But I'm content in all things. Things come and go, and I know who's got me. That's God. That's just what I believe in, and that's my thing. But I will tell you. So flash forward. First kiss was a boy sticking his tongue down my mouth. I was about raped. He tried to put me in the Jeep. My sister and best friend ran out and got me out of there. I started throwing up. That's a trauma response. I'm vomiting. I'm absolutely freaked out. I went into dirty. I am dirty. Yep. Something's wrong with me.
How was home life at that point? Mom and dad still good?
Mom and dad good, but I could not talk to them. I could not. During that time, I would I remember writing a note. I started cutting. Didn't know really what that was. I was so isolated. I was homeschooled.
Yeah. So they were involved in the church?
Yes.
Okay.
I was homeschooled from the time I was in third grade, and then I graduated at 15. I did correspondence school and completed 4 into 2. Mom had let the teacher back east. It was a correspondence still take over, but I was homeschooled. Setting that up, we did not talk about sex. I did bring up, I will tell you, I had a family member when I was 10 years old in Montana. We got snowed in a lot. It could be lonely. My family was everything. My siblings, I have 3 sisters and a brother, and my mother, so close to her. And setting that up, no cable. So it's Little House, Waltons. It's, I played Oregon Trail when the computer came out. We didn't have phone. We had a cell phone when they first came out, the expensive ones, but we'd go up on top of the hill and call out. And so that was and then I wrote letters, but that's kind of how I was raised. So definitely kind of different, for even my age. But anyway, when I was 10, my cousin stayed with me. She had been abused as a child really bad by a family member, and it broke her. And she felt to advocate for me. I was 10, and I told her what happened, and she felt that my parents needed to know. I freaked out. They're going to think I'm disgusting. Okay? So I tell my parents, and my mom was devastated. I think looking back, my dad was too, but he didn't know what to do with the pain. He didn't know what to do. And mom met with the person's mother, and, it did get brushed under the rug. Absolutely. And I'm not upset at anyone now. It's just that's the truth. Mm-hmm. So that reiterated in my head secrecy, shame. Dang it, just that stinking, I felt like pray, or I don't have all the right words, but it just reiterated that spirit that was on me. And so I definitely wanted off the ranch. I was ready. I was a go-getter. Whoa. Worked my hind end off, cleaned motel rooms, went and worked in the Teton Mountains with my sister as a wrangler at a guest ranch. And I was terrified. I'm always doing things that I don't feel qualified for, but I'm just brave enough to try and fail. But we had to saddle 50 horses. My sister and I were so dang wore out. We had to help each other lift them. We were little. But we saved money. I was going to Bible. Well, I'll slip back a bit. Hold on, Angela. So I wanted to sing and do ministry. I love broken people. When I was a little girl, in the middle of all that, I would teach the res kids at church Wednesday night. I had the 8-year-old boys. They were a hot mess express. I cooked for them. And then I did a Bible lesson and took some home. Rough lives, rough deal. It was not good, but I always had that heart. When my mom knew that, like my sister and I went to Chihuahua to an orphanage and spent a couple weeks there. And so I've always had that heart for the ones nobody wants since I was a kid. The smelly kid, nope, I'm going to go right there. That's just me. I just love them. I love them. They're just jewels. Yeah, there's beauty in broken vases and things that we don't see the right way. Telling you, change our mind. Yeah. But anyway, so I had that heart of a mission, and so I had applied. So my grandfolks had taken me to a place in Phoenix. It's where they run out of Los Angeles. The Dream Center is it's the same church and their base. And so I got all the brochures, and I was like, I want to go to the Dream Center in Los Angeles, and I want to work on the streets with the prostitutes. That's where I want to go. I am all of 17 years old and really no experience at all in the real world, at all. But I was like, no, this is my passion I want. And so they accepted me. They got my ticket. I was going. I couldn't believe it, and I was like, here we go. Well, my sister had attended a Bible college back east by David Wilkerson. It's called Summit International School of Ministry now. Back then it was Mount Zion School of Ministry. I don't know if anyone knows much about David Wilkerson, but he founded Teen Challenge. Okay, so that's my dad sang for him back in the day for some of his crusades. So I had known of him.
Sure.
And anyway, went back there. My sister went ahead of me, and I switched, and I went to college back east with her. And I met my first husband there back in Pennsylvania. And crazy, I guess it's my story so I can tell it, but we took a train. My folks, we didn't have much money. We had worked our tail off to get the money to even go to the school. But I wanted to learn. I needed some, I needed to study.
Yeah.
That's what I felt then, and that's okay. I think that your journey takes you where you need to go. But anyway, we went up to Glasgow, Montana. That's up by Canada. And Mom and Dad put us on a train for 4 days all the way back east, and it was fun. 4 hours in Chicago, and I had started to travel. Yeah. And I had been to Disney World. My uncle and aunt had taken me there, and been to Los Angeles and Vegas. And Dad loved to travel. He had that bug because he used to do it. So I definitely love culture and people, Indian reservations. I just love people. Yeah. I do. I find them so wonderful. Like, I don't care where they're from. They're cool.
Yeah.
And so anyway, took the train back there, and that's where I met my first husband. And I would say that my train got off track a little bit in there.
Yeah. He was not nice.
No, he got kicked out of Bible college and came back to Midland. I went back for my second year. I wanted to finish, so I went back I completed my first year. And that summer I had come down to Midland. He's from Midland, and I'd come down to Midland and had met him, and he was associated with a guy here that was running a church out of his home that ended up becoming Desert Winds Ministry and different, but it wasn't right, okay? It led a lot of people astray, let me just say that. A lot of hurt, following one man. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. You've got to use wisdom. And it really derailed me for quite years. About 13 years, it derailed the whole setup. We got married when I was 18 in Midland, and big wedding. We did
Was he older?
He was older, 21, and I was 18. Okay. The setup for sex, I will say, reiterated when I got married. We made a mistake before we got married, so I gave my virginity up to him, finally. Like, even though I had messed around as a teenager and done things I shouldn't have, I had not done that. And so after that happened, I didn't feel I could tell my parents. Had I been able to, I truly believe I wouldn't have married him. Had I felt I was guilty. I felt so much stinking guilt. It sucks. And I don't want my kids to feel that way. I don't. Things happen. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to sign your
what is that? Lifelong sentence for a mistake.
Yes.
I did love him. I was obsessed with him. He was obsessed with me. He made me feel beautiful, attention. I finally felt pretty. I finally had the attention I wanted by someone that, took me shopping. He bought me new clothes. I mean, it was everything I had dreamed of. He had a nice brick home from his parents. It was just such a different lifestyle than mine. It was night and day. Culturally, he was Hispanic, and I was raised around the Indian reservation. So I didn't realize there was a cultural difference, but there was from Montana and Texas, certainly. But I was enthralled with his lifestyle. I came to Midland, and it was like everything I'd always wanted. It was functions and parties and activity and dress up and clothes, everything. I was like Little House on the Prairie, it felt like. I didn't learn to put makeup on until I was in college. And so it just opened up for me, and the point is to flash forward. So I was pregnant with I got pregnant with my son, David Aaron, when I was 19, because I had him at 20. So when I was 7 months pregnant, my grandparents were on the board of a church in Colorado in Grand Junction, and they offered us a position as children's pastors. And so we moved, and David Aaron was born in Grand Junction. And the crazy part about that is I did the journey back for my grandparents' memorial service not very long ago. And it was such a journey. Isn't it crazy how the Lord will have you re-meet people when you're healed sometimes?
Yeah.
It blows
yeah.
my mind. It blows my mind. But a lot
You
of
get to
healing.
see his hand
Yeah.
all throughout, what you look back now feeling like, oh, all the brokenness, but, his hand was all through in it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, too, another thing that he set free. When I first met the kid's dad, he had told me they were more old school Mexican, and he had said, don't look at my dad in the eye, don't. And I struggled so long with guilt and shame to even look people in the eye. And I thought of looking in your eyes. You're so beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
But I mean, the fact that God can bring the confidence back to you.
Oh, yeah.
To even be able to stand up and look someone in the eye and
have this conversation.
Yes, is a miracle. If you knew me, this girl, I got more. I'm telling you, if you knew the journey.
How long were you in that marriage? How long did you stay?
I started drinking. And so timelines and memories are not as great then, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But
y'all are in children's ministry.
Okay, during that time, he actually lost a job. I don't really know why, but they wanted us to leave. And that followed me. It was failure. I was embarrassed. So we moved to Montana. And it was a train wreck, job after job loss. And it felt like people after us. And I separated. I had Savannah. I had my oldest. He was a toddler. And then I had a little 5-month-old. And I was going to stay in Montana. We had graffiti on our car. My car bashed out. There was women after me. It was a nightmare. There was old bosses after me. It was a bad deal. So I had started cluing to what was going on in my life, that something wasn't right. I don't know how much I'll get into this, but so I had decided that I was going to go to cosmetology school. I like skin, and I was going to be an esthetician. Mm-hmm. So I was separated 6 months, and he said, "Oh, we'll do marriage counseling, work this out." I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. That's just that was the worst mistake that I ever made.
Is he done with his crap?
No, it kept on going.
Okay.
It kept on going and got worse. He kept saying, "Stick around, I'm going to be something. I'm going to make money."
Physical and sexual abuse throughout.
Throughout, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Waking up to him having sex with me. Okay. I had already tapped out mentally, and I started drinking. He liked me to drink back early on of the drinking. He was okay with it because it made me freer or more outgoing, more sexual.
Yeah.
Just to say this is not a kid program, so.
Sure, yeah.
And I look back and he really did. Now, that's not his fault I drank. That's my fault.
Yeah.
I want to own up to that, absolutely. But I will say, certainly a bad setup. Yeah. And then what led me down a bad path was the drinking, because then I started wanting validation. I go and join the gym. Social media is starting to take off. I get, 10,000 followers on Twitter. I'm posting workout things. I'm getting people validation. Mm-hmm. It's feeding a hole in me that I wasn't getting in my marriage. Or, he called me beautiful, but again, it's all on the outward. It was nothing.
Using you.
And using me. Well, and the thing that as a woman, I think we all go through, my dad always said, be careful because men will use you up. And I thought, well, that is the most twisted. What a negative. But I will say this. When you put yourself in positions, they will. And I remember my timeline being married to him. I am going to get older. I will not always look like this. I won't always be a size 2 forever. Maybe, but maybe not. I'm going to get wrinkles. I'm going to, and I remember the panic. What in the heck my whole life's going to be plastic, like freaking out to stay up to make him happy. That is so messed up.
Yeah.
If you want to do it for you. But don't do it for a partner dear God, do it for you. I want to be beautiful for me, because I'm God's temple. And to me, I'm proud that I am. So, but anyway, so the house fire, so that was a nightmare. Kids were in the specialist for lungs, got sick. David Aaron's hair started falling out. Stress because he watched his sister and this trauma. I had mental health issues. Well, I had obvious from childhood, unresolved trauma and problems. Very, very much so. I would say depression, and that I battled.
Yeah. Well, your self-esteem this whole entire time, and then there's no boundaries in place, and the self-esteem is low. So
yeah,
where's the grounding? And then, you're losing your faith because this person who's in a position that is supposed to be representing the Lord is not.
Right.
Maybe even potentially twisting it and using it inappropriately.
I got quoted that scripture about submission a lot.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Oh, dear God. And I was like, are you, looking back, I'm telling you, I'm like, there is such a thing as some spiritual abuse. I will tell you that.
Yes, there is.
I have seen it in churches when it ain't set up the right way and there ain't enough accountability and things. We're all human, and we need to be mindful of that, of who we follow and who we're letting pour into us. Make sure that it's truth. Really seriously. I'm really picky about who I let pour into my life. I really am. I've learned a lot more about boundaries, and
yeah, that's what it takes. The esteem and boundaries.
Yes.
It's a must.
Yes.
If you don't know what yours are, let's figure it out. If you don't know your identity and you don't know your boundaries, reach out to me.
Okay. See, that's awesome.
Yep. Okay, so you guys you have the house fire. Is there anything after that happens that leads up to an ending of that?
I will say that, so during that time, I'm a worship leader. I love music. I loved it. I love to write. I love to sing. I love to use my voice, and I like to do it. And I had a dang mental breakdown is what happened. But through that, marriage got real bad, even physically and verbally. I'm sure I was a nightmare too, because all hell had broke loose, And the pastor meets with me and he says that I'm Jezebel. I think the ex-husband had said I wasn't complying probably in all this. This is the setup of that certain group of people.
Yeah.
And so he says, you need to step back from worship and let, these two other people take over. And I said, okay, but that was kind of a low point for me. I thought, well, now I've lost this.
Yeah,
so
it's your fault.
It's church, and it's my fault. I'm Jezebel, and so this is, what had happened. And so that was a low point. And then during that, after that is actually when I started drinking, and I think I started really drinking to cope with the mental illness from the house fire. The PTSD is what I really. Have
all
learning more about all of it. Trauma from childhood.
That was the fear that the Jezebel and the losing the worship, that's the pinnacle of the failing.
It was ultimate failure.
And all the hurt.
Yes.
From the beginning.
Yes, absolutely it was. And
but this
then
is
I turned
where
my back.
Always rise, man.
Isn't that cool?
The lowest low of all the thing. It gets as bad as it can possibly get. And then now what?
Okay, and then so that's rock bottom part of it, and then the drinking. And when I left the marriage was when I felt there was prostitutes involved. So then I'm like, I'm out. So I'm going through my divorce. I moved to an apartment, and my doctor was a doctor here in Midland. And I trusted him. He made me feel beautiful. He helped me be beautiful, and he made me feel beautiful. And I was at a low point. I felt like nothing, and I was scared. And I had gotten money from my divorce, but when it was all finalized, and and, you know, I had walked away with a sum of money, but I knew that I needed to save it and be careful. I just knew in my spirit, let me tell you, and I'm glad I did. But I was still scared. And so I had went one time to it's not an after party, but it's where they serve drinks.
Like an open house.
Yes, an open house is what it was. And I lived right there by it. I was in the apartments right there. So, man, I zipped over there and I was like, yeah, free drinks and
the potential to win some great gifts.
Yes,
sure.
Great gifts, get rewards. I was like, heck yes. Plus it was I like to do that thing.
Yeah.
I was one that would want to go sit at the Hemingway and drink some wine and just enjoy.
Yes.
I just enjoyed learning to be who I was by myself or whatever. And so I went over there and I remember I had drank a glass of wine prior to relax myself. But I was drinking. Yeah. And I went over, I was certainly not intoxicated to the point of non-functioning at all.
Yeah.
But
you were a drinker at the time.
Yeah. Right. I knew my limits.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but anyway, so he offered me a drink. I'm not accusing him of putting something in it, but let me tell you, I was pretty pliable. It was very odd. I felt very relaxed to the point now later on, having been in the world and tried some things. Probably something could have been in that. I was one of the last people there. It was dark. I was the last person. Yeah. It was just me and him in that facility. And so he went on to talk about my lips and if I had gotten injections and how beautiful. Of course, this is filling my head with, whoa, oh, yes, I'm pretty. He's making me feel great. Someone important is giving me attention. That's where I was. And he went on, and I had went in actually for that appointment. I was like, because he would prescribe things that I asked for. I wanted some like acne cream that time or what. It was like something to do. It was certainly my face. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I was laying on the table and he reached down my blouse and fondled my breast and then reached down further down my navel. Now, he didn't go in my pants, but the whole time I'm feeling fireworks in my head a little bit, but I'm feeling pretty relaxed. And he's just talking in this soothing voice. He was extremely soothing. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, I'm thinking, but
it's a trigger back to all those other things where you're just like,
I'm just relaxed.
Paralyzed.
I was paralyzed. Yeah. It really felt paralyzing. And he offered me, first of all, he told me he wasn't married. I had never looked him up or dug into his life. He was just my doctor. For all I knew, he was just a single doctor. And I was like, oh, great. He's really nice. He's like, I have a guest house. Maybe you could come live in it and I'll help pay rent. He's telling me everything single mom needs to hear at the moment. And so I'm just like, well, sure. And he's like, and as he's talking in this voice, he's touching me. And finally, that's all that happened during that time. But I left feeling like, what in the hell just happened? What the heck? I was like, that was weird. And does he like me? Like, is he wanting? He made me feel that he wanted a relationship. Do you understand what I mean? Like that he was definitely, it wasn't just that. It was like, come back. And then he offered, free treatments. And do you get what I'm saying? Power trip here. Yeah. And I'm thinking, great, perfect.
Yeah. You're like trying to talk yourself almost out of like, is he a predator?
They come in all forms.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they walk the line so that you're like questioning your own sanity. Like, am I
crazy? And I'll tell you what, it wasn't until I read the news and his face is right there and the women. And I'm like, well, no crap. I ain't the only one, and it shocks me.
Predator it is.
Predator it is. Good deal. You're locked up. But I wanted to, I've always had that in me to be an advocate. I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would so have joined with them other women as a voice. I just couldn't at that time in life.
Sure.
I was going through too much. But
yeah, it's
I'm
that
proud.
confidence. It's
Yeah.
that esteem thing. You've got to reach a certain
Yes.
esteem to just trust yourself, right?
Yes.
Like we allow certain things to happen to us and we accept certain things that we should have never accepted.
Right.
And it changes, you stop trusting yourself.
Yes.
And then that affects your ability to love yourself
Yeah.
and care for yourself. And so you have to seek that out and heal that. And
so
it
true.
is healable. It is
Yeah.
redeemable. You
Yeah.
are redeemable. You
Yeah.
can get to a point where you can trust yourself again and love yourself and value yourself. It's available.
It is possible.
Yes.
And I'm getting there. I'm better
good.
than I was.
So
I
good.
am not where I should be, but I am better than yesterday.
Love it.
And God is still setting me free. And people meeting you. Come on now. There is like a band of ladies, and even guys have gone through things. I mean,
Yes.
you see your tribe coming up. Like, hey, I've been there too. This has happened to me. I struggle with this.
Yeah.
I struggle with this as a result of this. You're not alone.
Yeah.
I felt alone.
I love that you would use the word free because that's exactly what we're going for.
Yes, it's freedom. I'm telling you what, it's so true. And it's worth the fight for. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up on your journey. I have wanted to, time and time again, face things and face people who we think are powerful people or that I thought was, and face it and stand in your truth and watch the Lord take over when you give it to him.
Yeah.
Prior to me letting go, it was just block after trauma after trauma, rape.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have I been raped? Yes. Did I question whether I had or not all the time? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the scenario and making sense. Well, it's not this story like this one's. This one is really
bad. It's not
bad.
like the movies where you're kicking and
Yes,
screaming and
it's
yelling.
not like that.
Rape can just be you laying there and
Not
accepting
being there.
the situation.
Yes, and not being there in your head. I used to go to a place in my mind from childhood, and I used the same method as coping as an adult. I would go to my favorite childhood memory in a field by a creek. We were camping up in the mountains, and we would catch minnows, and I would always go there. Always go to that place. Always back to being that little girl. Isn't that something? But that's the way our brain works. It's incredible.
Yeah. You're protecting her.
Yeah, isn't
in that moment?
I'm learning that.
That's sad.
Oh, I'm learning that.
Sorry.
I am learning that so much. And to put a voice, you were talking about legacy, or we were at some point, but I've lost a lot of people. I lost my mother 2 years, November 27th, after a 7-year battle with brain cancer, glioblastoma, stage 4.
Sorry.
I get to tell a little of her story, and the fact what had happened when I found out she was diagnosed. I had went up to Montana with the kids to get away from my ex-husband. Hightailed it out because I'd found out if you stay married, you can leave with your kids, and not get in trouble.
Right.
Because they're my kids as well. It says he can come pick them up too, but I can as well. So I'd headed up there to get some help. Mom was diagnosed. She had had a tingling in her left side, and she had complained about it. Finally went into the local doctor there in Miles City, Montana, and they did an MRI, and they found a mass, and it was not good. He gave her 11 months with treatment, 2 months without treatment, and said, take your wife on a cruise. Of course, it was devastating. Yeah. I literally, in that living room in front of my strict godly parents, said, F you, God. At that point of my life, that's where I was.
Yeah.
Fuck it all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to edit that one.
You're good.
But I mean, that's low. Got a bad marriage, 3 little kids, and now my mom's dying. Now, my mom's my best friend. She is gentle and kind. She had a wit about her, too. She was funny. But kindness was her greatest thing. Her heart, oh, she loved people. Oh, she didn't care who you were, what color. She loved people. But anyway, I absolutely cursed God. I said, I have served you. I am a mess. I was drinking, but I was just flopping around. Yeah. I was just like the waves and no anchor. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then I drank heavier. Boy, then it was all out over for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to die. I drank to die.
And
I didn't care.
That's the enemy's game.
Yeah.
God takes the rap for what the enemy did.
Yes.
And then we're already separated. Now you're further separated and you have no anchor. You have no grounding, which is Jesus.
Yes.
So it's like the enemy loves to get a person to that point.
And you know what? He'll prey on us that it doesn't matter whether you were raised right or not or knew or didn't know. Mm-hmm. It's a train wreck.
Yeah.
We got to
have
have
an
an
anchor.
anchor.
To curse God.
Absolutely.
If he can get you all the way disconnected from your faith, he's got
That's
you where
his goal. I'm telling you. He's still at it. It's just we're getting wiser now.
Always at it. Exactly.
Yeah, he's always at it.
You're being renewed on the inside.
And some
constantly.
to encourage other ladies is even getting to the point of me being set free enough to talk about this.
Yeah.
The enemy's fighting. He fought me all week.
Oh, yeah.
Well, for 3 weeks. And I was like, this has got to happen. I know it because I could feel it. And I knew it was going to happen. Uh-huh. But I could feel the warfare in my personal life, my health, the way I feel, just so much stuff. Yeah. And
question it. Like,
don't
is this say it in public. Don't
do it.
But
remember that scripture, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. Tell you what, they can take Bibles and they can take it all away from us. They can go. You know what they can't take? In your heart.
The relationship.
They cannot take what's in that heart of yours. I'm telling you what, it cannot be stolen. Yep. Your life story cannot be taken from you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. Isn't that something? There's power in it. And you're right. That's why this is trying to get shut down for some people. Because I'll tell you what, there's some power in a testimony.
Yeah, and freedom.
There is freedom for you. I'm getting freedom. Yeah. And I have been, but this is another step to that,
Amen.
And now, I've kind of hit a lot of points. I want to say I got sober. I met my husband. We'll have been married 4 years. I'm looking at my tattoo. It's fine. March 27th, we got married at the courthouse during COVID when it had just started opening up. And I was drinking when I met him and hid it from him because he was sober. I was still in the lie part of my brain where I think I can quit and I think I can get a handle on this. But I couldn't. Well, he discovered it. Thank God I hit rock bottom. It was pretty much rehab, shipped me back to Montana to my cowboy dad, which would have not been great, or get clean.
Yes.
And so I got clean. And so I went with doctor's care and did the work, and it's hard. Because guess what? Everything you have been numbing out floods, and you got to deal with it. I got to face the trauma. Mm-hmm. And it's not
hurt.
pretty.
It's
ugly.
Let it hurt.
Yes. I got to let it. And I'll tell you what, if it ain't something I thought, boy, if anything, it'd have triggered drinking my mom's death, my grandma. And no, but praise God that I had been sober, prior, because anything else would have triggered, drinking. And so anyway, I met my husband. I got sober. And he's been sober, since 2018 from drugs and alcohol.
Yay.
And so we do outreach now out of our little community, and because we saw a need. Yeah. And because I had been so secretive with mine in the church and hiding it so much, I wanted to give a voice in our area for anyone in church struggling with it, whether it's pornography, drinking, drugs, addiction, food addiction. I don't care what it is. We're all just people. And so that's a testimony to the Lord, but,
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. This is an honor. I really appreciate this. And it's been pretty amazing meeting you.
Thank you.
And this God appointment. I'm telling you what, I know the voice of the Lord. When he tells you pull over or tells you to meet people, do it. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah.
When he tells you to do something, do it. I promise you. I promise you.
It's going to make me cry. I just hope I can be that.
This is going to be something.
Thanks.
And if
Thank
it
you.
affects one person, that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters.
Yep. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for coming. You did a great job.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate you, Big.
Thank you.
Hey.